I would like to thank Steve Geller for his new camera. I hope it'll be clearer. So this is a power. Yeah, this is not good. Steve, I'm out. Where am I? Back to meeting. Steve, thank you, Steve.
Now have a great big phone. Okay.
What is that?
Turn off your ringer. Turn off your ringer.
Okay. Anyway, set up professional audio and audio settings. Okay, you're gonna have to. I have no idea. I don't know how to turn off this computer. By the way, turn it on. I don't. Okay, whatever. Anyway, L'chala Pachas. Okay, we're in the middle of doing the sugya of the Seder. Yesterday we saw the halachas yesterday of urchat, not urchats. The halachas of kiddush, and we saw the halacha of bringing the fun of starting off the Seder, and so interestingly enough, whether mitzvah strichas kavan or not, the mara, whether you yaitz the mara, use mara for your karpas, so we do the karpas. So tonight we're going to continue with the Seder. We're going to do kairich, we're going to do urchats, and then we'll seal the afikomen. Yeah, some wine. We should have some wine, right? Okay, so we're up to Kuf Tes Vav Amid Aleph. We're up to Kuf Tes Vav Amid Aleph. And we're a few lines from the Amar Rivin Amali Rav Mishashia Breda of Nas, about 8 lines down, 9 lines down. 80 mid. So Amar Avina Amali Rav Mishashia Breda of Nas and Hachi Amar Hillel Mishmei de Gemara. This is what Hillel told me in the name of the Gemara. Now this is not Hillel Azaken. This is not Hillel Azaken. It's not the Tana Hillel. This is the Hillel Achron. This is the last Hillel. He was a descendant of Hillel. He's the last Hillel, and he is known for the one who set the calendar. He's the one. This Hillel is the one who set the calendar for us. That we don't have to worry about, when exactly Yom Tov is. So he is not a Tana. No, he is not a Tana. Yeah. So loy nichrach inish matzah umara b'hadi adadi. A person shouldn't go ahead and make a sandwich of matzah and maror together. You should not make a sandwich of matzah and maror together. For nechal and eat. Mishum the sphirulon matzah bizman hazeh daraisa. The erev toichlu matzahs. Umaror derabanan. And maror is only rabbinical in nature. In other words, the mitzvah of maror is only when the Korban Pesach, when it says al matzahs marim yachluhu, right, is only when the Korban Pesach is intact. When we don't have the halach of the Korban Pesach, then we do not have the mitzvah of Mara Midaraisa. Erev Tochel Matzahs is independent of the Korban Pesach. It's independent of the Korban Pesach. But Mara is gebunden, it's tied to the Korban Pesach. So therefore, since we don't have a Korban Pesach, it's only Dirabanan. And however, we have Matzah Daraisa. Now, what's the problem of going ahead and making a sandwich of Matzah and Mara? What's the problem? Right? Mishin the Sfirle, Matzah Mizman Daraisa, Mara Dirabanan, says Hillel. The Asi Mara de Rabbanon will come along the Mara de Rabbanon, umevatalei lematzal de Raisa, and it'll go ahead and be mevatal what the matzah, which is the Raisa. In other words, there is a concept of by a dvar achila, that mitzvahs mevatal suesu, that one can nullify the other. That's by dvar achila, by a dvar achila. There's such an idea. So l'chayr you have matzah, the tam of matzah, you have mara, which is the rabbanon, and if you eat it together, this is going to come along and nullify this. This is what the Amoira Hillel said. And again, we'll see the sugya why we do what we do. Okay. Vafilu lemanda omar mitzvahs aim mevatl, and even according to Man Yom, who says mitzvahs are not mevatl each other, so therefore what you should be able to eat them together. Hani mili, that's bidaraisa, when they're both equal. In other words, even mashma guys, if the mora was daraisa, you would be able to eat them together, right? So in other words, it's not so much the tam, because whether If it's the time, it should not be a difference whether it's the Rabban and the Raisa. If the time of the matzah Amora is going to nullify the time of matzah, it should not make a difference the status of the Raisa or not. So you see, it's a lumbus in how you view the Rabban and the Raisa. So how do you view the Raisa? Then it's not. Oy the Rabban and the Rabban. In other words, equal status, then you hold ein mitzvahs mevat lezu when they're equal status. Avol the Raisa vid the Rabbanon, but when you have a deraisa and the Rabbanon, asi the Rabbanon umivat lelei the deraisa. The Rabbanon will come along and what and be mevatel deraisa. That's what he says. That's what Hillel said. So Memela, this Hillel obviously did not hold of kairich, but we do kairich. He didn't hold of that, but he didn't do kairich. He didn't hold of that. He didn't hold of that. Man Tana de Shmi Alei Mitzvahs Ein Mevatel Zuizu. Who is the Tana who said mitzvahs are not? You just told me, guys, that they're not Mevatel Zuizu, and that's only when they're equal with the rights of the rights. So who is that Tana? It's Hillel. It's Hillel. Now this is Hillel Azaken. This is the Tana Hillel. It's a little play on words over here, right? We're getting mixed up. We got an Amoira Hillel and a Tana Hillel, right? This is Hillel. It's the Tana Hillel, the Tanya. Omru Olav al Hillel. They say regarding Hillel. Shahoya korchin bivas achas. He would take matzah and maror, put them together in a sandwich, v'oichlem and eat them. Shenemar al matzahs umrohim yochluhu. Right on matzahs and rohim, you should eat it. Shemashma davati ate them together. So Amr Rabbi Yochanan, however, cholkin love chaveru val Hillel. His chaveru they argued on Hillel, and they said you can't make a sandwich. The Tanya. I might think I might think you go ahead. You take the matzah and maror, put it together, just as Hillel did. Talmud Leimar, al matzahs umromim yochluhu. You should eat it. It's mashma what? One or the other. Now, this is one way to learn. If you look at the Hagois Rensburg, he doesn't quote. This is a quote from Bamid Bertes by Pesach Sheni. There's a quote in Shmos Yud Beis Ches. He says the pasuk is matzahs al meroimim. You take the word al and put it in between. Matzahs al meroimim. It's mashma that it's matzah al meroimim. That's two separate things. Because again, over here it's al matzah meroimim, and the limud is from the word yochluhu. According to the Rensburg, it's matzahs al meroimim and the al in between. I feel even what this by itself and this by itself. Now. It's really interesting. It's mashma they should be separately, but you said the word afilu. What does afilu mean, guys? Even, meaning they could be together and they even could be separate. They could be together and they even could be separate. So that's the kasha right away. You want to say that why they argue on Hillel that they have to be two separate entities. It says afilu, mashma it's together and then separated, right? Says the Gemara, maskav l'Ravashi, ihachi, if so. Right, you're telling me that this pasuk my afilu. What's the afilu? Afilu is mashma, guys, even, meaning you could put them together and you could even eat them separately, but you could put them together. So what are you telling me he's arguing? El Amar Ravashi, Hai Tana Hachi Katani. Here's the way you read the Tana. Yochel, I might think, Lo Yetzi Behu Yedei Chavasai, Ela Imkain Karchim Vasachas. I might think you dafka have to put them together. For Eichlin Kederach Shehil Eichlin, and you ate them the way Hil Azakin ate them. Talmud Leimar Al Matzos Umroim Yochluhu. Matzos Umroim, you should eat them. Afilu what? Zebifnei Yatzmai, Bezebifnei Yatzmai. So now let's theorize the Gemara, guys. Let's start the Gemara over again. Comes along the Amoira Hillel and says you cannot put together what? You can't put together matzah maror. Why? Because one's the Rabbanon, one's the Raisas Mevat Lezuizu. Good. Not like his forefather Hillel, who said you could put it together. Right? But again, Hillel was speaking in the time of what? Of the Beis Hamikdash, where they're both the Raisa. So Rabbi Yochanan said, Cholkin Chaver about Hillel, right? They argued on Hillel and they said you can't put them together. Good, that you have to be separate. We attempted to go ahead and say, who is that Tana? The one who darshans al matzah simrom yochluhu, that they could be separate. Fred the Gemara, it's afilu. It's not, it's afilu. And we concluded, you're right. You might think you have to put it together like Hillel. Kamash Malon, you can eat it separately. So what have we failed? We haven't found a Tana who said you can't put them together.
And Hillel Zaken did not eat matzah.
Hillel Zaken put them together.
No, I understand that, but he didn't eat moitzi matzah beforehand.
Matzah's Mari Mechluka.
Okay, and then so according to the sheet that says that
Again, before you go off, let's flow to Gemara. We haven't been successful in finding who this Tana is. Again, I'll be with you in a second, Yaakov. But we haven't been successful in finding who exactly this Tana is. You thought it was this one, and we slugged you up, right? But now what does the Gemara do? Listen to this, guys. So Firois, we haven't found the guy, right? Who argues on Hillel. We found the guy who says, you're not limited to Hillel. You could even eat them separately, right? Like we do, yes? Yankel, you can understand it better now in a second. Now watch. Hashtag lo yitmai hilchasa. Now that we haven't ascertained the halacha, lo Hillel, not like Hillel who says what? Who says what? You eat them together. For lo Rabban who says what? You eat them separately. 1 second. We never had a Rabban who said you could eat them separately, did we? We just slugged it up. Mevorich al achilas matzah. Yankel's going to answer your question. Mevorich al achilas matzah for achel. For hod mevorich al achilas mara of achel. To be mekayim which shita? The one that says you can't put them together. Right. V'hod achel matzah v'chasa b'hadei and then you put matzah and mara together. B'loi bracha zeicha lemigdash kehillel. So Hillel Zicha did not do Yankel. He ate. That was it. There was matzah, mara, korban pesach, zehu. There was no moitzi matzah. He ate them together. Moitzi matzah is the shita of the one who holds what? You can't put them together. Mara is the shita of the one who says you can't put them together. So that's what we do. We do all three.
And according to this, it says that the afternoon is the mitzvah of matzah.
We didn't get there yet. Again, we didn't get there. That's good for your test. We'll get there. Okay. So now, they didn't do this. Okay. You with me, Avrami?
I thought that everyone holds it. When it's not designed based on mikdash, then you do separate. I thought this only
Again, if you hold mitzvahs zu, you can't put them together. Adarabba.
Right.
So you can't put them together. So we didn't find that guy. We didn't find the guy. In other words, but we see there is a guy. They say the Rabbanan says that, right? There has to be separate. It has to be separate. No, always separate. In other words, he held you can't put them together. Right. So now, now let's see the Rashbam to answer my question. Hear my question. We just have a shita that we haven't figured out who that shita is. Right? We haven't figured out who that shita is. Who exactly is the shita that we're quoting? The Allah is not like him. Who is him? We didn't see him. Says the Rashbam. Okay, so Maskal Ravashi Umiu Cholkin Olav Chaverov. Nonetheless, even though Ravashi slugs him up, because it says Afilu Kireb Yochanan Av Mehachale Shaminan, meaning that shita is intact. You just can't hear it from here. That shita that you can't eat it together is in fact a shita. That source that you want it from is not a good source because of the afilu. V'hashda now continues Rashbam. V'hashda lo yitma hilchasa like Hillel like Rabbanon, not like Hillel, not like the Rabbanon. The Rabbanon the Brisa moidel Hillel. The Rabbanon of the Brisa agreed to Hillel. The kricha nami shapidami. You could do it together, right? Afilu. What does afilu mean? You could even do it alone, but you certainly can do it together. Rabbi Yochanan Kamar the pligi Allah Rabbanon legamri that you never put them together. Leslu kricha klau. You never put them together. So what do? Mevorich ala matzah alma lechude, and then you make a bracha on marar, and then you say zeichel amidish kehillel k'ma shahaya oisa hillel bisman shebeis amidish kayim shahaya oichlin pisachim. Now, I'd like to shtelzach on something that is really, really interesting. Just have to pause the recording to get sometimes, you do something your whole life and you take it for granted that that's what it's supposed to be done. Right? Now, be medayik the lashon of the Gemara. What does it say? Guys, one more time. Mevarich, four lines from the bottom. Aaron, 4 lines from the bottom. Kuf Tesvav Amid Aleph. Mevarich al achilas matzah. You make a bracha al achilas matzah. For achol, you eat. For had mevarich al achilas marar. Because again, this is to be used to the shita that you can't put them together. For had achol matzah v'chasa b'adei, and then you eat them together. B'loi bracha. Now what? Now does it say you? It says zeicha l'migdash kehillel. Just a zeicha what Hillel did. That's all it says. Zeicha what Hillel did. So now, when it's brought down in Shulchan Aruch, it says in Tuf Ayin Hey, Tuf Ayin Hey. It's brought down in Shulchan Aruch. What you're supposed to do? You wash your hands. You go ahead. You do this. You do that, and then it gets to the following. You eat. You dip it in charaises. You eat the maror with a seba. You take the third matzah. You break it apart. You mix you put it with the maror, the matzah. You dip it in charaises. You don't dip. That you don't go ahead and dip. And says the Mechaber, you say Zeichel Amigdash Kehillel for Oichlav Biyachad Behaseba. So the mashman from the Lashon Shulchan Aruch, but for Oimer you say Zeichel Amigdash Kehillel, right? That's what we do. Says the Chavetz Chaim in the Ber Halacha, for Oimer Zeichel Amigdash Kasha. Halei Amirizu Hari Hefsik Bein Bracha Lekricha. Fellas, are you making a bracha on Kairach?
No.
Are you eating matzah?
Yeah.
Are you eating maror? What which bracha are you being samech on? Right. When you go ahead from the time you wash your hands till after kairach, you're not supposed to say a word. From the time you wash your hands till after kairach, you're not supposed to say a word because it's tesach hadas. Because everything you're connecting the bracha of maitzi, you're connecting the bracha of bari priyadam all the way back to your karpas. You're not supposed to say anything. How do we say? Zeichel Amigdash Kehillel. Says the Mishnah Berurah, says the Chavetz Chaim, Hari hefsek mein bracha lekricha, v'mechaber ma'atzmai mesayim she'ein lo lesiach, and he said himself, he says Mishaberach al chilas matzah leyasiach b'dava she'ein minyan hasuda. You shouldn't say anything from the time you make the bracha on matzah. You shouldn't say anything that has nothing to do with the suda at sheyochel krichazu until you eat the what? The sandwich. That the bracha you made on matzah, that the bracha you made on mara should go ahead and be on this sandwich, correct? And what are you doing? You're making a hefsek in between the bracha of matzah and mara on the kricha, on the sandwich. Right? So you're going to tell me that anything that has to do with the suda is not a hefsek. So you say tul beirech, take it in bench. Right? I never saw this lashon that the Mechaber writes Zeichel Amigdash Kehillel. Rakasu de bekrichazu Zeichel Amigdash. It just says this kricha. You don't have to say zeicha. The purpose of the kricha of the sandwich is the zeicha. It doesn't say anywhere in the Gemara, guys. I just quoted the Gemara for you. It doesn't say you say Zeichel Amigdash. It says you make this sandwich as a zeicher. You're making it as a remembrance, but it's not, doesn't say you should remember it. You should verbalize that remembrance. It doesn't say that. You read the Gemara. You just listened, right? It just said it should be a remembrance. That you should say Zeichel Amigdash. Maybe the Mishnah Berurah that says that maybe when the Mechaber said for Omer, he said Lav Dafka. You have to begin eating. First you begin to eat, so you connect it back to the bracha, and then you can say Zeichel Amigdash Kehillel. Valule Mr. Fini says that the Mishnah Berurah, I'm wondering, Haviyamina that Tzarech Leim Mechaber v'Toivelis b'Charayses Zeichel Amigdash Kehillel. You slip it in the Charayses Zeichel Amigdash u'Koloshen Hashas like Ashas v'Chol HaPoiskim v'Hayva Omer who shit for the Lishna v'Tzarech Ian. Why we say Zeichel Amigdash Kehillel? Says the Mishnah Berurah, says it's not Pashin La'oid, that why you say it. It doesn't make sense. He says it doesn't make sense. He says maybe the words in Mechaber that says V'oimer, some way it got in there, because it doesn't make sense. Because the only hefsek you're able to do, again, guys, here's what you're doing. Think about it. Api halacha. You washed your hands. Rachza, good. Why'd you wash your hands? Shamaitzi. You made maitzi matzah. Good. Good. You made maror. Good. Great. And now, if you didn't do anything else, you'd have the Shulchan Aruch. Everything would be great. But fine. But no, since we don't know what halacha is like, whether you have to eat the matzah and the maror separate, or you have to eat it as a sandwich, we'll eat it as a sandwich. Now, we're eating as a sandwich. Why do we? The whole basis of that eating is based on, because we back on matzah and maror. And what are you doing? What? You can't be mafsik. Says the Mishnah Berurah, doesn't understand. So he said, maybe you should eat it first and then said zeicha. Maybe that's what the mechaber means, to say the zeicha afterwards. So again, something I've done my whole life. I guess I'll go on a limb and say you've done it your whole life also, because I got the sense you should do it. Zelo pashut ma'od, guys. You hear? Zelo pashut ma'od. But you understand why now. You understand why it's not pashut, right? You understand pashut? I understand pashut why it's not. Maybe you should eat it and then send zeichel made kill him, you know? Huh?
It's a personal question.
Yeah.
What do you do with this year?
What?
What do you do with this year?
I'll let you know.
Well, nice.
Feed it to the dog.
I'm just.
I always said it. I always say it afterwards.
You always say the zeicha afterwards.
Yeah, always.
Which God did you have?
I don't know, but that's how I always do it.
Your father, all of a sudden, was a Talmud Chacham. He taught you the right way.
Okay, I always said it.
Guys, you hear the Ber Halacha. You hear the Ber Halacha. The Ber Halacha is saying it's a very interesting thing. Why are you being mafsik by saying zeicha? I think it's fascinating. Again, a classic of learning. You learn something, but it's something you've done your whole life. I'd like to see what Rav Chaim does in his God. Okay.
The question is, if you're eating, you're supposed to eat the matzah while you're still hungry, right? Right? Matzah.
Yeah.
So if you ate the matzah already, you're not hungry because by the time you get to the curry, you're not hungry anymore because you had the matzah and the maror.
Okay. Again, I think what can you do? You're not hungry. It's not. You're still hungry. You're eating it. You don't need a meal afterwards. You're hungry, but you're not as hungry.
I can't eat after.
You're not as hungry. Okay, but again, I think it's a very interesting point for thought of something that we've done our whole life. Very geschmack, right? Very geschmack. What? Yeah. Wonder what my Rabbi did. Okay. Should ask. Anyway. What? No, it was Kurtzman. Anyway, says Gemara Vaita. Amar Rabbi Lazar, Amar Rabbi Shia. Now, again, yesterday, guys, you remember I mentioned something about washing for karpas? Yeah. Guess what? Here it is. So in case you didn't like to hear it yesterday, I'll say it again outside before we do it. Guys, listen up. I said it again. I'm not going to test anybody on it. It's the type of thing you hear and you forget instantly, right? Here we go. In the order of Tumah, we know there's a pecking order. There's a pecking order. Tumah, there's an Aviyavoisa Tumah, there's an Ava Tumah, there's a Rishon Tumah, there's a Sheni Tumah. Now, we know that an Av can be Mitama Adam B'Kalim, and a Risha and a Rishon can be Mitama Oichelu Mashka, can be Mitama food and drink. Good? So now, there is a lot of tumas that are derabanan because of certain severities. So, for example, usually if a person touches a liquid, the liquid could be a rishon, but sometimes the liquid could be an ahaya, it could be an avatuma. There's certain things that, and also it could be a rishon l'tuma. So they made the following zera. Anything, any liquid, anything that can be metama truma, you can go from sheni to shlishi by truma. If it touches the liquid, it makes it a rishon. So my hands, they would go. So this is in one of the yudches they had in Masechta Shabbos. We had in the first parak there. Your hands are a sheni. Your hands are a sheni. That's it. Your hands are a sheni. You wash your hands, you're good. Your hands are a sheni. Good. So if I touch a liquid, it should be a shlishi, but it's not. Since a sheni can make a shlishi by truma, if your hands are tamei and you touch truma, the truma is now pasul. So the chacham made a gezerah because of the mashka of a sheretz, which becomes a rishon, it becomes a rishon. This liquid that I touch upgrades. It doesn't downgrade. It upgrades. Now a rishon can by chulin make a sheni. So here's what you got. You have a karpas. If you're using celery, if you're using katafel, potatoes, that is a piece of chulin. It's not truma. However, a rishon can be metama chulin on that level. A rishon can be mitama chulin on that level. So here's what's going to happen. I'm taking my karpas. I'm sticking it in salt water. It now has a liquid on it. My hands are what? They're a sheni. If I touch the liquid becomes a rishon. The rishon now is touching the karpas, which is chulin. It's mitamit. Now, Bismana said we eat it all the time, but the people who is it to eat al-tayrus hakodesh, good. That's the reason we wash our hands. That's the reason we wash our hands. We wash our hands because what? Because of in order to take that off. There's another day. You wash by double tovel b'mashka, guys. So therefore, any of you guys like to dink in coffee, cake? My family was dinkers. We take the cinnamon Danish, you dink it in. I don't know if you like that. So do you have to wash your hands or not? Is it the same as karpas or not? So there's a second day. There's a day that holds that you have to wash your hands. You have to wash your hands for something that's tovel b'mashka, the same way you wash for bread. We wash for bread al srach truma because of the kahanim. Because of the kahanim, since the kahanim, the hands are shniya, since it's going to be time of the truma, and they're eating truma, al srach truma, habitual truma, we wash our hands. So, this mana said would be the following din. If the din is like david tovel b'mashka, is a din in tuma, so we're not in this one tuma bismana zeh, except by the seder. We're not in this one tuma bismana zeh. So if you go ahead and drink your coffee, your Danish and coffee, you won't have to wash your hands. But if it's like washing your hands for bread, just like you wash your hands for bread, you'd have to wash your hands for dunking Danish, right? Okay, that's the machlokes. We're showing a little lumbus. Let's see the Gemara. Says the Gemara. Amar Balazar Rabbi Shia, Kol shetivlo b'mashka, anything you're toivel b'mashka, any food that you dip into a liquid, sarach til shidayim. You need til shidayim. Now we're going to go through the Rashbam, guys, and you're going to understand that it's muscle kidvash, it's Swedish sugar. Kol shetivlo b'mashkin, kigoin, yerek bekutich. You're dipping a vegetable in that uchi dip. Oy b'choimetz or in vinegar. Sarach til shidayim mishum mashka. Shahayidayim shniyos. What are your hands are what? They are sheni. V'chol ha'poislas at truma, and a sheni which you pass truma to make it a shlishi. Mitama mashkin, mitama the mashkin liyes techila to make it into a rishon. Right there you go. You fit the whole thing in like in a few lines, right? It fits in beautifully. So now, Amar Papa Shma Mina, we hear from this. Hi chasa, this romaine lettuce, the lettuce that we use for maror, sarach l'shikaya b'charoises. You have to go ahead and immerse it totally in the charoises mishum kappa, because of kappa. Okay, we'll get back to kappa in a second. If you don't have to immerse it totally, why are you washing your hands? You're not touching it all. So obviously you see from here, guys, charoises, it was very wet. Charoises, they put wine in it. Taisus kuftez zayin amar aleph, right? Taisus says that they would make it, they would put wine into the charoises, so it had a din of double toivel b'mashka. You ever get charoises from that yeshiva? It's like a piece of brick. It comes usually comes 2 weeks after Pesach. It comes like 2 weeks after Pesach. You get charoises. I just
come to the honey for Rosh Hashanah.
I just got 2 bishvat in there. Yeah, talk about. That's okay. My anicle, who the birthday was in October, we sent it out in Eretz Yisrael. They just got it today. Right? Baruch Hashem was a wedding present. Anyway, this is you see that it must be that's a wedding. Now what's kappa? There's 2 days. One, it's a type of eres, it's a type of toxin. Like onions have a toxin to it, so too it's a kappa, it's a toxin. Another pshat, guys, it's bugs. It's a type of bug. It's a type of bug. It's a type of bug. It's a bug. You'll ask, how could you eat a bug? What? It's in the bug. If it never leaves the plant, it's not sheretz hasheretz al aretz. That was the head that people were handling with the water, with the bugs. It never left the water. It stayed in the water. So what are you handling in that? So it stayed over there that way. Anyway, so this is the nidin over here. The nidin is this kappa that using the charoisis to kill the kappa. It would kill the kappa. So therefore, to kill the kappa, you have to immerse it all, because maybe this kappa at the top of wherever the kappa is, be it the eris or be the bug, you have to immerse it totally. And why are you washing your hands? Because it's a dava toivel b'mashka. You're washing your hands. Why? Because it's a dava toivel b'mashka, and therefore you're washing your hands. Okay, that's what we have so far. So now, Says maybe you have no raya. I'll tell you. You don't have to go ahead and immerse it totally. For kappa, let's go, and the bugs may rechamayas from the smell of the apples and the figs and all the things. Maybe it's going to kill the kappa. It'll either detox the eris or it'll go ahead and kill the bug. And the mela, so therefore you're not washing your hands for that. Therefore, maybe you're not washing your hands for that. So therefore, elalama lina tilas yadayim, fellas. If you're not dipping it, bishlein, if you're telling me you're totally immersing it and it's getting wet, I understand why you have to wash your hands because you can't touch it. But if you're telling me now that you just have to dip and therefore it's not getting wet, so why are we washing our hands? And for the Gemara, because maybe you will immerse it, and therefore you wash your hands. But the netilas yadayim for karpas is a din pashtus in tuma. Again, because it's the rabbanim take a gezerah of two gezeras, guys. Your hands are shnias is one gezerah. Second gezerah is that you're touching a tchila, you're touching a liquid that becomes a rishon. Yes, Maish.
Who cares if it becomes
I can't hear you.
tame? What's the big deal if it becomes tame?
I guess by the seder b'kedusha we're nizar van in tumah v'tayra as much as possible. But the Leil Seder, the Kedusha, we want to be nizr as much as possible with Tumah V'Tayra. Moshe is asking, chulin, we don't care. Unless you makbet to treat your chulin al Tayra Sakaitis, which is what we're doing by the Seder. I guess Moshe, Bismana bias, where you had to be careful, correct? Bismana bias, you had the carbon Pesach there, so we haven't changed it. You had to be tar, correct?
For sure, if you had a Pesach.
Right. So again, and we haven't changed, right? In other words, this halacha of karpas, guys, I like the teretz I'm giving him now. Guys, look back at the Mishnah on Kuf Yudalet. Look at the Mishnah on Kuf Yudalet. So the Mishnah, the first thing in the Mishnah, Avilu fun of there being Yerakais, according to Rashbam, Matvil b'chazeres, they would be toivel b'chazeres, right? So you're seeing you're going ahead and you're dipping, correct? And according to you're dipping it either whatever you're dipping in, it's a wet substance, correct? You're dipping now. And take a look at the last line of the Mishnah. And in the time of the Beis Hamikdash, at this point in the Seder, they would bring the carbon Pesach out. So what do you see, Maish and everyone else? That the karpas was around at the time of the carbon Pesach. So that would answer your question nicely, no?
Nice.
Yeah, thank you. I thought it's nice too. Yeah. So we keep it going, right? It's nice when your kids agree with you, They get married and they agree with you, because until then, forget about it. Anyway, says the Gemara like that. Ishma. V'amra Papa, leinishi inish mora b'charaises. You should not keep the mora immersed in the charaises. Dilma agav chal yudetavlin, because of the sweetness of the spice. Again, it's cinnamon and tapuach. Matful leila marure. It goes to Edwan, it's going to be vatal what? It's going to be vatal the sharpness. Ubeinin tam mara veleka. You need tam mara and you don't have it. You need tam mara and you don't have it. Let's see a Rashbam over here, right? Tam mara. What does he say? I'm looking for it. You're supposed to taste the mariris of the mara. You're supposed to taste the mariris of the mara. He says that's why somewhere he says it. Okay, if you look at B'leimara Yatza, if you look at the first semi-wide line, the meaning tam mara veleka, the mishamhachi kapid rachman lamara es piv, the Torah is makbid. You should go ahead and burn your mouth. Right? So no, you should go ahead. Shal oichel, the one who eats it, should burn your mouth. The mara should burn your mouth. So therefore, if you're going to put it in charaisis, it's not. Now, I was saying to a rabbin, people don't dip it. They take the charaisis, they stick it, especially the women, they pile it on. You're not supposed to. You're supposed to dip it in, and that's it. And some say you can shake it off. You're supposed to dip it and shake it off. The whole purpose, the dipping is what is it's a zeichel tit, but the mara is more important, right? Right. So same, but and the whole reason for the charoses at best is a zeichel to when the mara is chayim, they make it spitter, so it reminds us of the cement. It reminds us of the cement. Some people use cinnamon sticks, by the way, because the brick to keep together, you have like a straw. You had something to keep it together. when I bought my house, before I knocked down part of the house, in the walls, the cement, there was horsehair. There was horsehair in the cement to keep it together.
And the old beer bottles.
Oh, old beer bottles for sure. Yeah, old beer bottles from the turn of the century. I showed it to you from the turn of the century. So it was, but it was in here. You saw it to keep it together, stuck together. They had it. So this is the Indian of, again, the charoisis is there, but we really should not go ahead on him and keep it immersed.
If you used only a small amount of harassment where the mara was overpowering you, then it would still be burning your mouth. It would still be.
But again, it says lo nishi, and you shouldn't do it. Again, you're right, but you shouldn't do it. But again, by the way, this din of burning your mouth, the Chazon Ish says, this man said he didn't use romaine lettuce because romaine lettuce it doesn't burn it. It doesn't burn your mouth.
I wouldn't have any there anyway.
What?
I wouldn't have any there anyway.
So what do you use? Just eat it straight?
They didn't have it.
He had a jigger of horseradish. So again, let's again. What I do is I use the romaine lettuce and I do put in horseradish. I put in both. So as opposed to my children. Are you kidding me? Oh gosh, I'll tell you a story afterwards. Anyway, a 15-year-old with an ulcer. Anyway, right through his stomach. Anyway, says the Gemara. Advare Rav Chisda Ravna Ukva. He was speaking to him. V'dorish natal yada b'tilva rishain. If you wash your hands by the first for karpas, natal yada b'tilva sheni. You wash your hand by the second. Amar Rabbana Kamei Rav Papa Haba'alme Itmar. This was not stated by the Seder. It was stated in general if you're dipping food. Because if you're going to say what? It's said by the Seder. Why do you have to do it twice? You went ahead and did it once by the karpas. We learned it dafka by the Seder. Because if you're going to learn it ba'alma, if you're going to learn it what? That it's speaking, right, on a non-Seder night, Lamali trei tibule. Why do you need two dippings? Elamai, what are you going to say? What are you going to say? You learn it on the Seder. So why aren't you yaitza with the first tibul, the first dipping, for the second one? But you wash your hands for the first. Why do you got to wash your hands for the second? Amri, even the boy lememra agarata, since you have to say the magid, the halila and the halel, stilma asuche daite, maybe you'll have hesach hadas, the naga, and you'll touch something that you shouldn't touch, and you have to wash again. That's the whole reason. In other words, if you would have hesach hadas, you would not have to wash your hands a second time. It's not a bracha. It's not a bracha, Yankel. It's not a bracha. It's an union of Nikias, right? It's in Nikias. Right. It's such a part of that. You hear something. Okay. So now, l'chayra, what don't we do is forget about tibul sheni. Don't you have to wash for matzah? You wash the first time. What are you washing for? Right. Why are you washing the second time? No, might see matzah. You're washing might see matzah. So why you don't have to wash it? You'd have to wash the second time anyway. Not else the tibble, not else dipping the charoisis tomorrow, but else the pass. So look at Taisvis. Sarach sheyitel betibel sheni. Lav dafka knuckle betibel sheni. It doesn't mean lav dafka for the second dipping. The ha'avid lebasa ha'maitzi, because the second dipping takes place after you wash for the matzah, right? The boy until shidayim. Ela agav tibel rishoy naka tibel sheni. Vanatil nami gamet sarch tfilas boy. In other words, really, the reason you're washing is for what? Is for the matzah. You have to wash for the matzah. The shaila is if that washing for the matzah is necessary what for the other one or not. And then that's the need over here. Of course, you have to wash a second time, even if you didn't have hesach hadas. New Gemara. Amarava, bola matzah. If you swallow matzah without chewing, yatsa. Bola mara lo yatsa. What's the difference? Says the Rashman. Bola matzah, right before it gets wide. Floy lo asa, and you didn't chew it. Yatsa, you be yatsa the mitzvah of matzah. Shari kayim be'erev toichlo matzahs. You will mekayim be'erev in the evening, eat matzahs. Shari achilahi. This is considered an achila. Let's say it's not achila. Umiu lichatchila tam matzah be'inan. Lichatchila, this is b'di'evet. Miu lichatchila tam matzah be'inan. You need tam matzah. However, bola mara lo yatsa. We're doing it again. The be'inin tamara. You need tamara. No, guys, there's no the erev toichel marar. Marar is vayamar chayayim. You have to feel it a little bit. V'leka, if you swallow it whole. The mishum hachi kaper rachman lemara es piv shel oichel. That we should burn the piv of the oichel zecher as a zecher leave maru es chayayim to what, to embittering their lives. Kach matzasi kosev b'chal esfarim. This is what I wrote. This is what I saw in all the sfarim. Okay, so now you have pshat. We'll stop there. But that pshat difference between matzah, matzah you need an achila. Mora you need a tam. So memela by matzah we need an achila, swallowing whole. In Yiddish we say das heißt an achila. Not a good achila, but das heißt an achila. More you have to taste it, and therefore if you swallow it, you're not tasting it. No good. Okay. Now, bola matzu mora, right? If you swallow them together, yidei matzah yatza, even though it's encapsulated by the mora yatza. They mara lo yatsa. Mara again, you're not tasting, you're not yatsa. The chiddush is that even though the matzah is encapsulated with mara, you still be yatsa. However, korchan besiv, if you go ahead and wrap it in bast, or some type of covering from a palm tree, and it's not touching the walls of your esophagus, ubala af yedei matzah nami lo yatsa. You wouldn't even be yatsa matzah. You won't be yatsa matzah if korchan besiv and you swallow it, right? Says Rashbam, Korchon, Shneim Yachad Besiv, Hagodl Saviv Adekel that grows around the tree, Lo Yatza, Shari Lo Hoya Mamish Bepiv. It never was in your mouth. Lo Zeh, V'Lo Zeh, Ukizorik Evin Lechemes Dami. It's like throwing a pebble into a barrel. It's not considered anything. It's not considered anything. The Kachalacha, and that in fact what is the halacha. Okay, let's finish up. What is the seder in front of people? What's the ka'ara that you put in front of people? Says the Gemara, the following. Amar Sira Rashi, Matz l'fnei kolecha v'echad. Each person needs matz in front of them. Mar l'fnei kolecha v'echad. Mar needs in front of each and every one of them. The charoises l'fnei kolecha v'echad, and charoises in front of everybody. Ve'ein oikrin es hashulchan, and we don't uproot the table. Remember, we're uprooting the table that the kid should ask. El l'fnei misha omer agada. The one who said the agada. Mashma that only one person says the agada. One person says the Haggadah. If you're interested in Rabbi, what I do, I read the Haggadah out loud. I mean, no, they could say along, but I'm makbid from this Gemara. Since I learned it, I'm makbid. I read the whole Gemara out loud. You know, and again, if you say you want to say, you don't want to say again. There's no mitzvah. The mitzvah is a gadat levincha. Not they don't have to ask me. So it's not like davening that if you miss a piece, there's certain part that at the end, kol shlo yomer shleisha dvarim elu and yes, for sure you have to say to be yotze haggadah, but a lot of times there's no. Yes.
Only the Ogra Shulchan by the one that's.
Yeah, well, again, we
said before.
So we have.
We don't have that, but
We're our oika taking the car off the table is oika the shulchan, right? So now it says, so mashma for me again, one person has got. We don't pass in this way. Rav Huna, here's the way we paskin. Kulu nami lefnei mi shomer haggadah. Everything's in front of him. The matzah is in front of him. The mar is in front of him. Everything's in front of him. The hilchas halacha is kirav Huna. Right now, lama oikrin es shulchan. We know the answer to this already. Why they oikrin es shulchan? Amad debei Rabbi Yanai kadesh yakiru tinoikes. They should recognize that something's funny. V'yishaldu, and he should ask. And again, just to reiterate Tosfos yesterday. You take the thing away. The kid said you haven't eaten yet because you haven't eaten yet. You bring it back. Why are you bringing it back? Because we're going to do what? A tibble sheni, and that's why the kid is able to ask the manishtana. Or else you have a big question on the manishtana. Had the kid know? And it's very geschmack. It was such a geschmack of Deretz. Someone once said, I asked it. The kid said he remembers from last year. So I said, if he remembers last year, why is he asking? He knows the answer also, right? Says the Gemara. Abaya have a Yosef Kameh the Rabbi. Abaya was a young lad, and then Abaya was raised by Rabbi, his uncle. His mother died very young. Anytime the Gemara says that, I heard ime, it means his nanny, right? So Abaya have Yosef Kameh the Rabba, his uncle. Chazid the Kamadli Takami Kameh. So they were taking the table away in front of him. Amalhu Adayin Linon. We didn't eat yet. Asi Makri Taka, and you're taking away why the food called Asi, the food didn't come, and Kamakri Takami come on. You're taking the food away from him. Amalei Rabba, Pachim Milomid Manishtana. Again, you don't have to say you're part of Manishtana. You don't have to say Manishtana.
The hospital was